job, good job. Give me a high five, give me a high five. If you finish this task, then I will give you chocolate. You just sit down, do this one thing, then I will give you chocolate. Okay? Hello, I'm Prianka Evangeline, your internet speech language pathologist, and in this video, I am going to tell you all about reinforcements. It is going to be a detailed video. I have all my notes here ready with me. So take a notebook, a pen and a coffee or a tea and let's get started. This video is going to be divided into these chapters. So each topic will be mentioned with its time in the description and in the comments. So if you just click on that time, you can go to that specific topic. I made this so that it is easier for you to refer back when you are trying to learn to teach your child at home. My whole channel is dedicated to help parents and some therapists also in learning the proper ways to teach your child so that you help them and nurture their growth without doing any harm. So if this is something you like, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel to get more such content. So what is reinforcement? Reinforcement is a thing, a toy or a food or an event that increases a behavior. If you want your child to do something, you give more reinforcement for them to do more of that behavior. I just want you to take a second to equate this with your own relationships with adults in your life. Let's say your spouse. You want your spouse to do more of something. So if you reinforce them to do that without them knowing, do you know what that's called? I think some people call it manipulation. But so it's wrong when we do it for adults, but I want you to think, is it okay if we do it for children? I don't know, you think and tell. Reinforcement can be classified and there are so many different types and names for reinforcement. And right now, I'm going to simplify it for you so that you know exactly what are the different types of reinforcements that you can use with your child. So the first one is based on the effect it has on the situation. For example, a positive reinforcement and a negative reinforcement. Now, a positive reinforcement is one which increases the behavior by giving a positive feeling. For example, if your child does not want to do a writing task and then you tell your child, I will give you a Lay's packet or a chips packet if you finish doing this. And you have been doing that for a while and now your child is used to this behavior wherein if they finish their writing task, you will always give a Lay's packet. So your child is used to this. And a negative reinforcement is when you take away something that they like in order for them to do something. That is, you tell your child, I will not give you the Lay's packet until you finish your homework. So that is a negative reinforcement, wherein you're taking away something that your child likes in order to make them do the desired behavior. Now, I don't use both types of reinforcements. I sometimes use positive, but I never use negative reinforcement in therapy because the overall net effect is negative, right? So when you take away something that the child likes, it's actually not a very good environment for learning to happen. Second classification of reinforcement is based on the type of reinforcement. For example, like in the previous discussion, we spoke about chips or Lay's chips or a chips packet. This is something like food, which is an edible reinforcement. So this is one type of reinforcement wherein the reinforcer itself is food. So that is an edible reinforcement. Another type of reinforcement can also be wherein you give your child a certain activity that they really like. For example, playing with kinetic sand or playing in the ball pool. So these are the activities that your child really likes. So if you give an activity as a reinforcement, this is the second type, that is activity reinforcement. There is a third type of reinforcement like a sensory reinforcement which involves giving your child some type of sensory activity or sensory input that they like. This could be giving them a hug or giving them a blanket roll up if they like it, or giving them a chance to bounce on the ball if they like that. So these are sensory reinforcements, which is the third type. The fourth type is a tangible reinforcement, that is giving them something to hold in their hand, something that is a physical thing. This could be in the term of a toy Or maybe your child likes to hold spoons. So if you give a spoon in their hand, or a pencil that they like to hold, or you can give them some stickers that they like, or some coins to keep because they like that, if they do that behavior or desired activity that you want. Type of reinforcement depends on how often you give the reinforcement. That is, it could be a continuous reinforcement or a variable reinforcement. So for example, if you're trying to make your child write alphabets or write CVC words, and every time they write you say wow, good, yes, for every word, that is a continuous reinforcement. And for example, if you are in a play activity with your child and you want them to blow bubbles, or you want them to say bubbles, so but your child says it all the time, and if you only tell them good at very random intervals, not every time they say the word bubbles or every time they blow, but you say it only once in the beginning, once in the middle, and once in the end, randomly, this is a variable reinforcement. Okay, now the fourth type of reinforcement is called a social or an automatic reinforcement. The differentiation between the two is based on the fact that somebody is either needed or not needed to feel reinforced. If it's only your child doing a certain activity and then getting reinforced by themselves, it is an automatic reinforcement. But if it's your child who needs you to reinforce him to do the activity, then it is a social reinforcement. I'll give you some examples so that you understand this better. This is a very important distinction for you to remember. Okay, now so social reinforcement could be like, if your child does a puzzles wherein they fix the shapes inside the puzzle, and they need you to say good job or very nice every time they do the puzzle, this is a social reinforcement. But on the other hand, if your child does the puzzle by himself and then feels happy, oh wow, I completed this, oh this looks good, I wanted to put it in and I put it in, and that's enough for me. So if your child does that on their own automatically without needing your input or your praise, it's called a automatic reinforcement. This is also called intrinsic motivation. Now that we've seen all the four types of reinforcements, I am now going to categorize the reinforcements into the reinforcements that I would probably use more of. So that I would never use, I would use sometimes, and I will always use. So let's do the first one, which was positive and negative reinforcement. So I'll give you a minute to guess. Where is it going to go? Okay, you have it in mind. You're right. So positive reinforcement is something that I will use sometimes. So I'm going to put it in this column, but not all the time. Second thing, and negative reinforcement is something that I'm never going to use. So let's put it in column 1 because it's not the great tool to teach our child. Like we don't want to threaten our child. We don't want to manipulate them. We don't want to, instill fear when they are learning. Now the second type, let's go to the second type of reinforcement, which is the different varieties of reinforcement. Let's take the first one, edibles. Where do you think that will go? I'm never going to use that. Because I think we've discussed this in a previous video, because using edibles to teach children creates a very unhealthy relationship with food for children, and they always seem to be expecting it anytime. There's already, I think in our community, there's a lot of unhealthy relationships with food. For example, anytime something good happens, we have to celebrate it with food, so that we know that good equal to food, or we don't want our child to develop certain unhealthy relationships with food. The second thing is activity reinforcement, which I do use a lot of. So I'm going to put that here, because activity is good, because we want our children to feel like I can do a variety of things, but I don't have to do the only one thing. That is, for example, if your child likes doing a certain thing like playing in sand, it is completely okay to play with sand. If the sand play is also a little bit, you can put in your goals inside it, you can make some activities with it, you can encourage your child to say a few words with it, you can give more language stimulation through it. You can do so many things with sand play. If you want more information on that, or if you want me to make more videos on that, let me know in the comments. Anyway, I do use activities, And towards the end of the video, I'll give you more information about how to do reinforce your child with activities. So stay tuned for that. And the next one, tangible reinforcements. Now, I don't use a lot of tangible reinforcements. I do use it more for my articulation therapy, wherein we give stickers and stamps and all that. But I try not to use it too much, so I'm going to put it in the second column. And the third is a sensory reinforcement, which I don't do as a reinforcement, but then I do it as an activity itself. So I do use a lot of that. I'm going to put it in my third column. Again, the specifics on how to use sensory activities or how to do activity reinforcement, I will tell you in the later part of the video. So stay tuned for that. Okay, now let's go to our third type of reinforcement, which is continuous and variable reinforcement. I don't do continuous reinforcement anytime because my goal is not conditioned response. That is, I don't want the child to only speak when I ask a question or when I give a probe or a prompt. I want the child to be able to speak spontaneously anytime they want. So if I keep giving them a continuous reinforcement every time they do or speak, I'm teaching a child that reinforcement is very important to speak. But in the real world, it's not like that. Nobody reinforces us for speaking. So I don't do it continuously. I do it only variably all the time. The fourth type of reinforcement that we were discussing was a social reinforcement, which I do use sometimes, but not all the time, because again, I don't want my child to get dependent on the phrases or my approval or my response to their behavior. I want my child to be making their own decisions, doing what they want, to identify what is good and wrong for themselves with my help, but I don't want to keep doing it all the time. So social reinforcement go into the second tab. The third column will, as you have already guessed, automatic reinforcements go into the third column, which I will talk more about later in this video. So let's move on to the next chapter. Okay, now I want to give you 5 main reasons why I don't like to use reinforcements, and I don't use it too much. I only use it now and then. So one of the main reasons for me personally is that reinforcements come under the term of behavioral therapy or behavioral modification, or like a lot of you know, ABA. And I don't really like ABA. I don't promote it, or I don't want my children to get it, because ABA does not again teach the intrinsic motivation and encourage intrinsic motivation and encourage independence, encourages individuality. Instead, it's like training a child to do behaviors that we want the child to do, which is not very neurodiversity friendly or not autism, it's not encouraging to a child. The main reasons is when you start reinforcing a child, you have to continuously identify new reinforcers and new ways to stimulate your child and encourage your child, because the thing is, your child may get satiated with one type of reinforcement. Like if you keep on saying good job, after a while it's gonna lose its meaning. It's just gonna be one thing that happens. It's just one thing I hear when I do an activity. So I don't want that to happen, and as a behavioral therapist, if I was, I would probably need to keep finding newer reinforcements, which is time consuming and really not the best use of my time. Second thing, like we discussed a little bit earlier, is contingency. That is, reinforcement is given only when the child does a certain behavior. And sometimes it is difficult for children to do a certain behavior. For example, a lot of autistic kids struggle with speaking because of a oral praxis difficulty. So constantly asking a child to perform something that's difficult for them and only showing some form of affection or some form of reinforcement only when they do something that's difficult is actually not very nice to the child. And I don't want my child to feel like I will only reinforce them or I will only be affectionate if they do what I want. Because our teachers or people around should value and the child for what they already are, and not always try to keep correcting them and disciplining them and changing them. The principle in ABA is where they always tell you to join a social reinforcement with a toy. That is, when you say good job and your child, and that's not enough, you also have to give them a toy, or you also have to associate that good job with a toy. so that your child always associates that the toy gives approval. I don't want my child to learn this again, because I want them to know that social reinforcement itself is a good thing, is enough. I don't need more than that to feel good about my own performance. So think about it, like if you do an activity and you get a reinforcement, it's well and good. But if you really value yourself and if you really believe in yourself, you will not actually depend on that reinforcement to make you feel good. So that's what I want my child to ultimately get. But immediately it's a bit difficult for children. So it is okay to use a little bit of reinforcement now and then to encourage them. But finally, we do want our child to be intrinsically motivated to learn. And that will happen only when we make learning fun and interesting based on the child's specific interests. More on that later. So they also say that reinforcement has to be immediate and it should be given immediately as the child does something good. I don't like this, because it teaches children that we get good things immediately. But that's not how it is in life. We never get anything good or anything that we want immediately. We have to go through struggles and problems and a long time, hardships, and then finally only we get something good that we want, we like. So getting them very used to this concept of immediate reinforcement, another term for it is called immediate gratification, is not very healthy. We want them to be used to delayed reinforcement and delayed gratification. Fifth problem I have with reinforcement is that reinforcement decides not what the child wants to do, but what the adults wants the child to do. So I believe inherently most of the children, 99% of children are good, want to make us happy, they want to feel good, they want to do certain things and they want to learn. So inherently when your child is a good child, you want your child to nurture them, their own talents, and find out what they like and do what they want to do, and you will be a supportive role in their life. But if you try to always decide for your child and then this is what I want my child to do, this is what he should be doing based on what other children are doing or what other people are telling, then it makes the child unaware of deciding what they want, of introspection, of feeling what is my interest. A lot of us do this, especially in India. We complete our school education, immediately all of us go into engineering or something, and then we think, what do I want? And then we have like a life crisis. Is this what I really want to do? What is my passion? We are ourselves unsure of what we really like or what we really want to do, because we were never told to inspect and feel and identify what we want, but we were always given this plan or a predetermined path of how you have to be. So do you really want that for your child? So and especially it can be difficult as a special parent or as a parent who's trying to parent a child with autism. But the thing is to rely and trust on your child so that you can find out what is it they like, where is their interest going to, and how can I help my child nurture that instead of constantly trying to fit him into this idea. Now here are 5 more tips for you to efficiently and effectively use reinforcement so that in the long term you can teach your child proper life skills and set them up, get them ready to learn on their own. We don't want to keep giving reinforcement every time and keep the learning very dependent on us. We want our child to be individual and independent and do what they want, learn how they want, find out their interests. That's what we want in the end. So let's see how we can effectively teach our child so that they are more like that. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is make a list of all the sensory inputs that your child likes. Does your child likes to look at colorful things? Does your child like to keep running all the time, jumping, climbing around the house? So if they like to keep looking at colorful things, it could be a visual seeking behavior, or it could be a proprioception seeking need for your child. Or if your child likes to keep listening to sounds, making sounds, keep listening to sounds, it could be very auditory seeking. So you got to identify what is it that your child wants to do, likes to do. And I want you to keep a running list of things that your child likes with respect to their sensory domain. So there are 5 main sensory domains, that is visual, auditory, tactile. So a tactile seeking behavior can be a child always touching them or touching us or hugging us, trying to put their face on our body or on our hands, or always touching things as they go. So this could be a tactile seeking behavior. Or so visual, auditory, tactile. Proprioception is when your child keeps moving all the time. And the fifth small ones are smell and taste, which also children like more of. So when a child has difficulty with processing taste or oral sensations, it can also manifest as mouthing issues or picky eating. So if you want more information on that, I have a 2-part video series that I will link in this up. You can go check it out later. First, make a list of things related to the sensory domain that your child likes, and try to incorporate these senses, these activities inside your goal or inside the learning activity. Let's say you're trying to teach your child some nouns. You can have clay to make a roll and then keep it on the picture and press as they finish each task. Or for example, if you want to teach emotions and you have pictures of emotions, you can ask your child to make a mouth that is turned this side, upside, as to mean smile, and a mouth that is turned down to mean sad. So try to first make a list and then incorporate those senses into learning. And if you want more information on how you can do movement related activities for a child who is more proprioceptive seeking, you could refer to my complete course on using rhymes and action based, that is movement based rhymes with your child and how to teach them. So that will also be linked above. Second way to increase motivation with your child is to have a schedule. I know everybody is talking about this, but how many parents are actually doing this in real life? How many of you, I know a lot of you take printouts and stick it in your home and it's just there on the wall. But are you incorporating that? Are you using that? So a great way will be to have some cards of what your child likes to do. Let's say reading book, reading flashcards, playing with clay, playing with water, or playing the music toy. So have certain pictures of that and you can keep it ready. So on your table, every day whenever you sit for learning on the table or the mat, flashcards, let's then do clay activity, let's then do book reading activity, wherein you have few activities going on side, one after the other, and you have in between that certain activities that your child really likes. But then you have a schedule and you go according to the schedule, and in the schedule you also have flashcards or storybooks activities which your child moderately likes, not really that much, but still you could teach. And then you have one thing in between, which is the sensory play, which they like very much. Tip is to give more specific reinforcement. Rather than reinforcement, I would suggest it as specific feedback when your child does something. For example, if they are trying to play with building blocks and they do one after the other, and let's say they made a tower with like 7 to 8 blocks, which they have not done before, but they're trying to do now. So instead of saying, good job, wow, build, keep it like that, you could say like, wow, that's a big tower, that's a tall tower, you did a tall one. So wherein you're giving specific feedback onto what your child did well, and you're just telling that back to them. This could be like if you're asking your child to speak and they speak in one word, and you said, yes, very nice, you said the first word. So that you show your child what is it in their behavior, what is it in their action that was good, that was important, that was needed. And you take it and say it back to them and emphasize what it is that they did. For example, if you're teaching your child to say some certain sounds like pa sound or da sound or sa sound, and they try a few times but they get it right once, you can say, wow, you put your tongue on top. For sound, you put your tongue on top, very nice. So instead of just saying, good, you did well, but give them a specific feedback about what it is in their behavior that they did well. So this gives your child something, a direction. Okay, this is how I'm supposed to finish this activity. This is how this is supposed to be done. And they get that feedback and they will do more of that again. Another tip with reinforcement is to continuously fade the reinforcement. So don't keep, like if you have to, like, maybe your child is a little older and they're very used to reinforcements from you. So you have to do it, but over time, try to just completely eliminate the reinforcement and only focus on automatic reinforcement or intrinsic motivation for your child. The fifth tip is to encourage words for your child that denotes what they did. That is, for example, instead of saying good or just super, try to say things like you did it, you finished it, you built it, you spoke correctly. So try to encourage that action or that behavior rather than what you think of it. So instead of it being about what you think or what you want your child to do, try to make it about what your child wants to do or what your child has completed or done very well. You colored it, you wrote it, you spoke it, you finished it, you did it. Like that. Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I started recording this video and then I did not notice that my phone battery had died and I was just continuing the recording and I finished the whole thing, then saw my phone and it was gone. So by the time it was time for my next session, so I had to record this video again on another day and then edit the video, and even when editing my phone crashed and I had to edit from the beginning again. So this is a 25-minute video, which is a long video, takes a lot of time to edit. So I did put in a lot of effort. That's why if you see, I did not post for the last 2 weeks because of all these technical difficulties. So if I've done all this to help you get some information and learn from this video. So if you want to help me back, please like the video and mention a comment in below this video about any question or doubt or even just a feedback for this video, if it was good, if it was helpful, or if you want me to cover anything else, and I'll also do that. Okay, and if you really could help me some more, please consider sharing this video to other parents, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.